all you've done and all the battles you brought me over. Hallelujah. Woo! And all the storms I saw you calm. In my defense, my only song is hallelujah. Oh, and how he never let me fall. Now unto him who is able. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, and let there never be a day that I don't rise to bring you praise. Hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Be praised. Be praised. Be praised. WEFM. This is no time for our program. It's your time. With P. John and Cecil Ryan. And guess. Good morning. My name is Cecil Ryan. The program is Issue at Hand, and of course, this station is Issue at Hand. Is a program that comes every Sunday morning around 10:30, starting at 10:30. We tried to be on time this morning, but slightly off. We do apologize, but we are pleased to be with you. The program is coming also via Star FM, Star Radio, and California Radio. So we are all in studio, as usual. My colleague, well, it's only one today. One is in Beckway having fun, I think. The other one is here. Pigeon, greetings and greet people.
Morning to our guests whom we will introduce in a while. It's good to be back on another edition of Issue at Hand. It is Easter Sunday, so happy Easter to all, wherever you are. Special wishes to you in the Grenadines having some fun. And I might add that do not forget the meaning of the day. Okay, Cecil?
Yeah, and I join you, Pigeon, in wishing happy Easter to all our followers and listeners, and urge them not to forget the meaning of the day as you did. It's very significant. So even as you're having fun, and we know you're having fun wherever you are, in Beckway, in Canouan, in Union, and in Nairo, greetings to you, and we want to welcome you especially to our discussion this morning, because today's discussion is going to focus on the Grenadines, Southern Grenadines in particular. We're going to be looking at all the work that is being done down there, all the different personnel who are involved, but we want to look particularly at the role of, we know that there are a number of hardworking, committed women who are doing the work down there. Actually who are leading, not necessarily doing it, but giving leadership to the reconstruction and the resettlement effort. So we want to have a discussion around that particular issue. So we have distinguished, very distinguished ladies with us today. We're not going to go into that part of our discussion yet when we would introduce them. But in the meantime, we want to just raise a few things as usual. Pijan, any particular issue you want to raise? I noticed that the Vincentian contingent is doing well. Is it fair to say that in Trinidad?
Well, I know that a contingent went, but I didn't get any details as to how many of them and what they're participating in.
Okay.
But we want to wish them all the best, nevertheless.
They certainly have stiff competition. I noticed that the St. Lucians are doing well from the Facebook reports that I've looked at. And as usual, Jamaicans are doing extremely well. But it is good to see that new faces are emerging from the rest of the Caribbean, in particular St. Lucia and Grenada. So it means that things are looking up for
I'm wondering if Jamaica is that competitive as in recent times.
Well, I think it's a case where the other Caribbeans have stepped up. So Jamaica is now facing stiff competition.
And by the way, we're talking about character games.
Yes.
Being held is in Grenada?
Mm-hmm.
Trinidad.
Hensley Crawford Stadium in Trinidad. Yes. All right. So we're just about, sorry about that. I didn't, we were just about getting ready to receive Minister Brong. She's waiting and she was trying to get our attention outside. I was at the airport, yesterday in Pigeon, and I met our good friend and colleague, Sherilyn Mason.
Okay.
Haywood. And her brother John, they were there at the airport. In fact, they're here to Cheryl just came in from New York actually yesterday to prepare for the burial of her mother who passed away some time ago. In fact, just want to share with our listeners, those who might be interested in attending the funeral service, that it's on Monday, April 28th, not tomorrow, but the following Monday, 28th. There's the usual viewing, but the service itself starts at 11 at the Kingston Methodist Church. And those who wish to attend would be pleased to know that it is there, and it's on not this Monday, next week Monday, not tomorrow, but next week Monday at the Kingston Methodist Church, starting at 11. So just want to hail up Sherilyn and her family. And as we have done before, Pigeon, we wish them condolence on the passing of their mom. While I was at the airport yesterday, Pigeon, I noticed a lot of people came in on the American Airlines flight from Miami, and they seem to have been not all, sorry, my bad. A lot of them were heading to Sandals, and the flight seemed to have been a heavy flight. And in a way, it's a sign of things to come, I think. Things that are happening now in the country. Tourism is really building up thanks to the coming of Sandals, and others are yet to come. Other hotels, that is. So yes, it was, the Sundays, Saturday, is not usually the busiest day at AIA, but I think yesterday was noticeable. Yeah, so we are now joined by another distinguished woman, and we want to welcome her. But as I said before, our discussion this morning, we're going to be looking at what's happening in the Grenadines, in particular the Southern Grenadines. And we have three distinguished women in studio with us this morning. In a way, Pijan, we may not be, we may not miss Joel too much because we have we have Beauty Brain and everybody and everything like that in studio with us this morning. So Joel, while he's having fun in maybe Beckway, he should know that he's missing the moment here that we are enjoying this morning. So yes, so we are very pleased to have in studio with us. First of all, Dr. Idalia Ferdinand, who has training in sustainable development. I think, Doctor. Good morning and welcome to the program. Perhaps you can tell us a bit more about that, your training.
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. Happy Easter to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and our listening audience. As was said, my name is Idalia Ferdinand. I have a master's in disaster management and a PhD in disaster management and sustainable development. I've been a cadet for many years, and that is where my disaster management activities started at quite a young age. And that's where I gathered an interest in the field. And so I am basically doing a lot of the things that I have an interest in, that I've trained for over the years. It's basically putting into practice some of the things that I would have studied and gaining a lot of experience on the ground in not just now, but over the years as a staff of the Ministry of Education. I've been coordinating the shelter management aspect of things because the Ministry of Education chairs that subcommittee on shelter and shelter management. So I've been involved at different levels.
You know, strange enough, Dr. Fortin, last week we spent some time looking back at the 1979 Soufrière eruption, and we were talking about different roles. Pigeon himself was a cadet. You know that. Oh, of
Yes.
course, you know that.
Yes,
And you're talking about what he did. Were you involved then?
I wasn't involved in 1979. I was just a baby.
Okay. Okay.
But I was very much involved in the 2021 aspect of things. I
Uh-huh.
would have worked at the EOC coordinating
Oh.
the shelters from that level.
Okay. Okay. We also have in studio with us this today on the program. Someone who's not a stranger to our program, someone not a stranger to WEFM. And we're happy to have Siobhan Stewart in studio with us this morning. Siobhan herself is very active in doing a number of things. I would leave her to say. We know who she is when she's at Milton Keynes, but outside of that, she's active doing a number of important things in terms of disaster and community management and community and providing entertainment and all those things to different sectors of the Vincentian community. So I'm going to leave her to say a bit more about what she does. Siobhan, good morning and welcome to our program once again. Lovely to have you on.
Good morning. Okay, so as you said, I am now doing some work in the Southern Grenadines. I have been assigned to the Ministry of Housing.
Okay.
So I get the opportunity to work with Dr. Idalia Ferdinand in the whole rebuilding process down there. It's quite an interesting task. It's different from my original task, but I eruption of 2021 and those efforts. It sort of feels a little, it's not strange to me, I should say. I would have had some experience then that makes me comfortable doing what I'm doing now. So it's a heart filling experience. You get to meet with persons and get to have them in the process, and I'm happy to be a part of.
And I'm sure person in our profession, I'm talking about profession of planning. Of course, she herself has to St. Vincent and the Grenadines as planner, but more so immediately as Minister of Urban Development and other things. Minister Brown, good morning and welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning. It's indeed a pleasure to be here at WEFM this morning. WEFM, as you know, Cecil, it feels like home. And I promised you late last year, early this year, that I would answer your call every time you called. Had I known it would have called for Easter, respond differently, but here we are.
And I'm so happy that you three have decided to forgo all the fun and all the excitement and into being here with us. I have to say now, being in here with Pigeon and myself, we are also fun, Pigeon. You would say that. It's lovely to be here with us. But I do apologize for dragging you. Well, I didn't drag it, so let me use a different word to put you off your Easter rest and recreation time to being here with us. But fulfilling national duties. That's the cover. So it's good to have three of you in here with us this morning. And we want to look at, as I said before, what's been happening in the southern Grenadines, insofar as responding to the destruction of Beryl. It's almost 10 and a half months now since Beryl has passed us, yeah? And still working hard to assist folks in the Grenadines. And here also on mainland, but we just want to focus on the Grenadines in the program today. So my first question is, how are things there now in the southern Grenadines? And perhaps Dr. Ferdinand, you can start by telling us.
Well, I have to say that we have made really good progress, and you can tell when you fly over.
Okay.
Because what you saw initially was a lot of blue tops, and now you are seeing the shiny roofs, right, with some colors in between.
Okay.
So we have made some good progress. Recovery is something that is broad-based. It covers not only the rebuilding of structures, but the rebuilding of livelihoods, community systems, and so on. So there is a lot happening. Including feeding of persons. So on a weekly basis, we receive food supplies that go towards the 2 community kitchens that are being run on island, and they contribute to lunch on a weekly basis, Monday to Saturday, for construction workers, the shut-in, the elderly, and many other persons in the community, the schools. We have the rebuilding, which I think is the greatest part of the recovery. And there are 2 teams that are working in Union Island, where a bulk of the work is still being done. I know work is still being done on Myron Kanawan, but they are at far further ahead in terms of the rebuilding. But in Union Island, we still on a daily basis are doing construction either from scratch. There's a few houses that are being built from the ground up, and there is still the repair of many roofs that are taking place. For this year, we would have completed over 100. That is being done by the state in collaboration with Mr. Wace and the Gumbalimbo team, and a number of other stakeholders, because there are churches and so on that are assisting either their members or persons in the community. So aside from the rebuilding, however, there's capacity building. So we are building systems to ensure that persons in Union Island would have the capacity to assist, whether in terms of shelter, whether in terms of management, of disasters at the community level. So we're working closely with USAID. We've done some shelter training. We are building capacity in terms of community emergency response team, working in collaboration with the Red Cross, NEMO, and other stakeholders. There is social support that is happening. Different entities are providing that level of support. I'm sure by now, they are assisting in the rebuilding generally on different levels, doing different aspects of that process, whether it's installation of windows, um, electrical, plumbing, different things, putting on roofs. So we have a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of different stakeholders. The churches, they have providing support, and other agencies. I I don't want to call name, but it's important to mention, like the Red Cross, Mustic Charitable Trust, Sol, and quite a few churches that are supporting the operation, and of course the government agencies. We know that water is a critical aspect of the process, so Water Mission would have provided some support in relation to that, working in collaboration with CWSA.
And the water mission is
I think it's a US based charity.
oh, okay, all right.
Yes. Right. So they've been working closely with CWSA in terms of reverse osmosis and assisting with the wells and cleaning. We have the regular transport of water on a weekly basis from the mainland, also to provide support on that level, because we know that many of the homes, even though the roofs are on, the mechanism to harvest the rainwater is not yet in place for many of those. A lot of the tanks were damaged, and so while we are working on putting those things in place, we are also ensuring that water is provided to homes. We do still provide some bottled water, but we are focusing on the elderly and the shut-in in that regard, seeing that other mechanisms of providing water is in place for the general public. There's also the need for water for the construction process, and so there's some level of support for that. We are working with maybe close to 20 contractors right now. In the earlier part, when I got to Union Island, we had maybe 11 or 12 that were working with the state, and that has grown significantly, even with a few coming over from the mainland. So there's quite a lot happening. Vinlec is doing excellent work. BRAXA and the other state entities, because you'd realize that there are the government buildings, there's the road, there is a cleanup operation both on land and sea. And so all of the various stakeholders, we are working together, and it requires a lot of collaboration, communication, and I am not here to say that we always get it right, but it's a work in progress, and we have been doing excellent work as a state to help in the recovery operation.
Stuart, you are with the Ministry of Housing.
Yes.
Or working through them. Anything that stands out in your area of concentration, insofar as housing is concerned? I know there was a talk. There's the plan to do 1,000 houses, I think nationally, but in terms of Southern Grenadines, what numbers are we looking at?
Well, the actual numbers have not been determined, and the housing rebuilding, we have different projects identified. So first we have the level 3 and level 4 homes. Those were the ones that were hit really bad. They either have major fixing or they have to be demolished and rebuilt. So that process has started. Some of it done by our local contractors, some done through the HLDC projects. So there is that. Then we have the housing. We have to think about housing for persons who are renting from homeowners in the Southern Grenadines, and those houses were damaged or destroyed. Homeowners don't have the resources to rebuild those homes right now, so the government now have to step in and have some sort of housing project that covers that. We have where if those persons had land, that we can assist them with building something on their land, or if they don't own the land and they're given permission from the relative or friend who owns the land to bring in that proof, legal proof of permission, and we can assist them with building something on that land. And then there are those who do not have land. So the government is looking at using government land to build for those persons. Of course, we're not going to be able to give everyone a piece of land. So there's the consideration for a quadruplex type of housing, where you would have about 4 apartment type in one building and be able to accommodate more persons than giving land for individual homes. So we have quite a bit going on.
Yeah, and it sounds as if it's a huge challenge still.
Yes.
What level of support are you all getting from the people themselves in Union Island? Are they embracing your efforts? Are they objecting to what you're doing? How would you describe the level of cooperation that you're getting?
Certainly, there's not really an objection. I mean, there are instances where you figure that persons can do more, but then we have to look at the big picture. Now, you've experienced this massive hurricane, and some people are still traumatized. And you see it and you hear it when there's heavy rain or there is strong winds, and you can hear even persons in the street talking about that experience. Some persons would come to the office or they would call, and then is when they say, oh, when am I going to get my roof fixed? The rain is coming in, the buckets, and so on. So, sometimes we say, yes, persons can do more, but then there's so many different things that are happening. But many persons have been appreciative of the support that they have been given. And people continue to be resilient, to be strong. They are, some are waiting with the next hurricane season in mind. They are patiently waiting and wondering what is going to happen, how can they be prepared. And you hear persons saying, okay, this time around I am going to do A, B, C, and D, because I think many persons had the thing that God is a Vinci and all they needed to do was pray and all of that without actually doing the physical preparation. So there's some level of appreciation, but then we also have to think about the fact that people would have gone through a very terrible experience and people deal with it in different ways. Some are more stronger than others.
Minister Brown, you have been traveling regularly down to Southern Grenadines, in particular Union. Well, we know where you have been going as minister yourself, but responsible for urban development and so on. But
Grenadines Affairs.
And Grenadines Affairs, of course,
Grenadines
that's it. So give us a sense of what's been happening as far as your visits have gone.
Well, we can go right back to my initial one. And Cecil, the level of devastation that I would have seen, it was remarkable. I could not have conceived of that. It was unimaginable. And I remember it's really hard to talk about, and I did not go through the storm on Union Island, which we can consider to be ground zero, because Union Island was heavily affected compared to Canawan, compared to Myro. I have been visiting all three of the islands in the Southern Grenadines, and if not on a weekly basis, maybe every 2 weeks, depending on meetings, parliament, travel schedules. But we've been a constant presence in the Grenadines. I have pictures that can show the transition of where we were and where we are heading, and the direction that we are heading to. Still, it's really a remarkable one, and it's even one that needs to be studied, because the level of recovery in such a short period, it is amazing. And I would like to give the ladies in the room, as well as the other people who have worked tirelessly, a round of applause, because without them and without the consistent work and everyone working together, it would not have been possible. Cecil, when we would have gone the first time, one of the first things that hit me was the fact that as the flight was descending into Union Island, we were actually smelling Union Island. The public health issues that were there initially, the cleanup campaign that had to be undergone for us to even see a way or a direction to head in terms of the cleanup. So all of that took some time, and that took a lot of work. But I must commend the workers at Bragster, the people who would have stepped up, the local contractors, they all pulled their part. And then there, after that initial cleanup, then we had the mountains of galvanized. They were galvanized that were how many stories high, that were gathered within that central square of Union Island. And then we had to remove a lot of that waste, send it to Trinidad via barge, all of that work. And then we started the whole effort of getting government buildings up and going. One of the few government buildings or public buildings that survived, and it was damaged, but it survived, was the Tobago Keys Marine Park. And that
Okay.
instantly became the hub for all activity. I was on Union Island probably the first time they would have gotten rain after the hurricane. So they thought they did a patch job on the roof. But we were there and the rain started to pour and the water was coming in from every which direction. And then you saw, well, more work needed to be done. We visited the schools on a weekly basis, the work that would have gone into all three schools. Mary Hutchinson, when we first approached it, you couldn't even see where the entrance was, where the buildings were, the physical outline of the buildings. It was just rubble. The secondary school that became housing for people and emergency workers. So we would visit weekly. We would see the work that was going into that, the coordination between the different ministries, NEMO, Ministry of Education, in terms of getting student counts, getting teacher locations to actually start the school term, which successfully happened. Stephanie Brown, initially when we went there, we said, okay, that's maybe just a roof. But when we started to remove the waste, it became more of structural issues. But a lot of the work has been done, and it has been done through partnership and just dedication. So I am pretty proud, and that's speaking about Union. I can talk about Canawan, you could talk about Myro in a similar fashion. In Myro, we had the help of the group, Bedman and his the youth group, the Mission for
YM
Christ,
Mission.
but
Okay.
they stepped up to the plate. Everyone worked together. They helped in the distribution originally. I can talk about the transport challenges. We had the Ministry of Urban Development. We were tasked with the coordination of the different ferries and the traveling to and from the Grenadines. If you can recall, Cecil, one of the first actions this government did is that we had arrangements with each ferry company, included Admiral, which would have served Bequia and the Northern Grenadines, for the delivery of goods and people. Free transportation of goods and people. And that was essential in those beginning or the few days after, and it was still essential up until about few weeks ago, where vast amount of people from the Southern Grenadines, they depended on that as a way to transport their goods and their building supplies.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many aspects we can speak about.
Well, we're certainly going to come back and touch on most, if not all of them. But I want to, well, first of all, Pigeon, any particular, you want to come
I
in?
was just wondering about the operations of the schools in the Southern Grenadines. I know you have 2 secondary schools, Union Island and Canawan, about 3 primary schools, I think.
Right. So the schools in the Southern Grenadines are up and running. In Canawan and Mairo, they are using their regular school facilities. But in Union Island, we have had to do school on the mainland for those families that are on St. Vincent, and their school is based in Arnesville. And in Union Island itself, the primary schools, the 2 primary schools and the secondary school, they are using the secondary school facility. The Stephanie Brown Primary School, it's mainly completed, and it's being painted now. And the other school, Mary Hutchinson, that is close to completion. So the plan is to have those schools ready for September. And so we are working with the families and the different ministries and stakeholders to see that become a reality.
I know every time we speak about recovery, we tend to focus on the structures, the buildings. How about the psychosocial recovery? What can you sense from among the population as to their mental state, for instance?
Okay, so I alluded to a bit of that. There are still persons who are traumatized, especially if there's heavy rain and strong wind. And the process of assisting persons to deal with that, it's ongoing. Just last week, a group of stakeholders had a session that was offered to persons in the community in general. And there are upcoming ongoing sessions that will be offered to like the police, persons in health, and different group of persons. Of course, we had the Back to Happiness, which is generally done at the school level. And so we are constantly looking for support in terms of psychosocial support for persons in the community, either by different groups or open sessions that persons can reach out and get that help. There's also our counselors, that is through the Ministry of Mobilization, and they do have referral pathways that is available, that information is available through the Ministry of Health, where persons can reach out if they think they need that support. But we also know that persons generally don't reach out for support, so it's we do go through a lot of referrals. So if
So if they
come
don't
in-
reach out, how do you identify them and reach them?
Well, we sense and we see and we observe, and through the health system and through the schools, they will reach out to the office and say, we think that there is need for some sort of support at this level. So it's really a collaborative work. Even somebody called me the other day, and they were so frantic because the rain came and they had to put the buckets out and so on. And the way that they behaved, I was like, oh my God, this person need help. And so you just jump into action and you reach out to different players and you say, can you do an intervention here or there? So that is open and that is ongoing.
But in your interaction with
But-
people, say,
But
What?
let me jump
Sorry-
in.
sorry, go
let me
ahead,
jump in here as well. The one thing we also know about Grenadines people is that they are a bunch of resilient people, a bunch of resilient people. So yes, we recognize the ones that Dr. Ferdinand speak about, and they exist. But then we have the others who have picked up, they've picked up themselves. They recognize that they have to move on with life. So they are moving on with their lives. They're trying to get back to normal as much as possible. Like, for example, this weekend, there are activities in Kanawan for the Easter weekend. We don't think that Union Island, I think the people didn't think that they were quite ready for their normal Easter activities. But I was there on Friday, and I know they're having conversation about getting back to normal by next year, Easter. So we understand. I went to Myro on last Tuesday, and they had tourists in. The young people had a sailing thing going on. The music was playing. They are trying their best to get back to normal life. And like I said, the resilience of the Grenadines people, we know that that is serious. They're determined people. So yes, we have the traumatized ones, but we also have the ones who are really working hard and putting their lives back together.
Mm-hmm.
How about the state of commercial activity on a regular basis? For example, the small businesses that operated before burial. How far are we back in regards to that?
They are coming back on stream, especially the market vendors and so on. They are out. As a matter of fact, I buy a lot of my fruits and vegetables in Union Island. I mean, because the prices are quite reasonable, and sometimes they look nice and fresh as you would see on the mainland, even better. So these days, I don't run to the mainland to buy everything. I get some stuff on Union Island. So the vendors are out there. There's been support for the fishers and persons in agriculture. So the support is coming. It may not be as fast as persons would like it, but we are seeing, we have lots of shops. Every corner has a shop in Union Island. They are functioning. So the business are getting back on stream, and the accommodation and all of that. They are Union, the Grenadines, Southern Grenadines is buzzing with business. And you can come and see for yourself.
I would also like to jump in there and talk about the fact that some people have turned what some might see as obstacles into opportunities. And what you have emerging now is actually some new businesses. I can talk strongly about this for Kanawan. Kanawan, you've seen some new businesses popping up, some new players within the markets, and even businesses that were previously established, they have improved upon their built environment, and that is definitely being showcased. So that's happening, and I expect that to continue to happen throughout Union Island. People are popping up, as Dr. Ferdinand would have mentioned. And you have to also understand that when I was down there, probably day 3 after this storm, vendors were on the street still. They were selling Coca-Cola, the drinks, they were providing those, they had ice, they were making it work, water. So you're seeing a reemergence of these things, and you're seeing new industries, you're seeing new crafts, and we expect that this to grow. There has also been support through the Prime program from the Grenadines initiative that would have helped some of these businesses to restart within the Grenadines. So that's definitely happening.
I know initially there was concern about criminal activity where people using the opportunity to engage in illegal activities. Has that been abated in any way?
It has been. Now, after any disaster, you will find that, but it has not been, over the last couple of months, it hasn't been a significant issue. There are the one-off
Situations.
activities, right? But I think the police, they are one of the entities that have been very active, have been doing an excellent job doing their patrols. And one of the issue is that persons are a little bit hesitant about reporting some of the crimes that are happening around them. But right now, there is no major issue in relation to crime and stealing. There were one-off events that I think we were able to get addressed by the security forces, and I think right now it's not really an issue.
Philbert, you have follow up?
No.
Yeah, in you talking about the economic activities that are flourishing now, it seems to be flourishing now in the southern Grenadines and especially Canawan. I have a sneaking suspicion that the women are leading in those areas. No, no.
I don't know if we want to make it a gender-based thing. It's pretty
Well,
balanced. No, it's
well,
pretty balanced.
Well, you tell me. I don't know.
Right now, the Prime Minister, as he described it, Canawan has the best pizza in the Western
And that's
Hemisphere.
not
The
a
best
woman.
what? The best what?
Pizza.
Pizza.
And
In
that's
the-
not done by a woman.
It's in the Western
It's all right.
Hemisphere. It's
Well,
not
tell us
done
who's
by a
doing it.
woman. It's
Tell
by
us
a
who's doing it.
gentleman called Beige.
Beach.
Yes, and it's really something to look forward to. It's a delightful reason to get to Canawan. So if you're ever looking for a reason to get to Canawan, the pizza
pizza.
from Beige.
Yeah, and just
In-
across from Beige, if you cross over the road,
Yeah.
Glen has a
Glen's.
lovely restaurant there,
Yes.
and that's another meal.
Okay.
Glenn
Okay.
Glenn
Well,
played a very vital role in the initial aftermath of the hurricane. So Glenn, without prompting from anyone, he started to cook and feed the people of Canawan from his own resources.
but I want to go back before we'll come back to Ben.
Glenn.
Glenn, sorry. What makes Beij's pizza so special?
Go and try it.
You have to
No,
try
well,
it.
You have to try it.
You have to
We
entice
can't
me to
give
go
you
and
the
try it.
secret. You have to try it.
Definitely.
I agree.
Okay, the taste. I'm satisfied with
And the
the
cost.
taste. And the cost.
That's right.
Yes,
I'll
and
combine taste
one of
and
the
cost.
things we could also mention here too is that some of the buildings, many of the buildings in Canawan, when they have been rehabilitated, they have been sorry, getting tongue tied. But the fix up that happened to the buildings, they have gone into they have provided space for entrepreneurs as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're going to see an expansion of that as more of them come on stream. But that is something that's definitely commendable.
Okay.
I mean, Union Island is still in the rebuilding phase. So a lot of the small businesses on Union Island that existed are still under construction. But what we would have noticed is a lot of businesses operating out of homes now. Like you may
Yes.
not have the walk-in restaurant,
Yes.
but you have persons that you can call and have a breakfast, lunch, or dinner delivered that compares to any restaurant. And that's the type of service. They have been able to shift their businesses to suit the time and the condition of what is happening there. So they may be a little slow in the actual structural rebuilding and opening of businesses, but not that they don't have existing businesses. It's just slightly structured to suit their situation.
And you have emerging ones coming out as well.
Exactly.
Because hardware sales have definitely increased in Union Island
And that's as a result of the
as
reconstruction.
a result
Yes.
of the reconstruction
that's happening.
efforts. Yes.
And I mean, you see a lot of fruits and drinks, local juices and so on. The men and women, they are involved. They are trying new things. They're using the opportunity to create new industries. The fisher folk, they are working to get back out there so you can get fresh fish and other seafood. So I really think that there is progress in terms of livelihoods and flourishing.
How about places of accommodation in both Union and
Canawan.
Canawan?
Canawan is up and running. You can find the homely Airbnb accommodation available. You can go to the Mandarin or the Oriental or one of those Soho. So Canawan is up and running in terms of accommodation. In terms of Union Island, there is accommodation. It might be a bit more limited, but there's accommodation. Bougainvillea is open back. They have smaller boutique hotels, accommodation that is available. King's Landing, on the other hand, they're still under construction. Islanders Inn, they have not started their construction as yet. But there is accommodation there. Right now, it's more or less being occupied by service carriers who are going in to assist in the rebuilding process still. So you're not finding a lot of visitors taking advantage of that accommodation. But service providers, Flow, Digicel, the other entities, land and surveys, government, they are using those accommodations to go down and help in the rebuilding.
And then if you want to even talk about, you can talk about the Tobago Keys.
Yes.
And the amount of boats that have been passing through the Tobago Keys, we're almost back up to the normal levels. So that's quite encouraging.
And how about
also Salt Whistle Bay?
Yes, Salt Whistle Bay, it's very, very popular. There's a lot of life on Salt Whistle Bay and a lot of economic activity. And if you can recall, it was some of the quick action by this administration that actually saved Salt Whistle Bay because the passage of Hurricane Beryl created a gap that could have destroyed what is Salt Whistle Bay.
And even as we're talking now and knowing that in another month and a half we're back in the hurricane season, what level of preparation, what kind of preparation is being built into people's efforts today?
Well, so
I mean preparation for
future hurricanes. I can say one thing about this too. Last year, prior to Hurricane Beryl passing through the Southern Grenadines, and previous years, NEMO has been a very, very present office in the Grenadines. They have conducted a lot of training, whether it's around hurricane, tsunami, and other natural disasters that the Grenadines are exposed to. I remember last year, it was maybe about a week before Hurricane Beryl hit. They were in the Grenadines running their campaigns and conducting their training, reminding everyone that the hurricane season was approaching and what they needed to do to prepare.
And that process is continuing. So over the next couple of weeks, NEMO will be meeting with the different subcommittees, reestablishing some guidance, helping them to develop their plan. And we're working closely with the Red Cross. So we're starting in Tanawa next week with a training for the community-based disaster response team. And we're also meeting with the team in Union Island. And we're also going into Maru. So we are building capacity, not just establishing the team, but providing training, whether first aid, whether vulnerability assessment, managing disasters. And so we are ensuring that there is that capacity in-house to manage, to help in terms of preparedness, to remind persons about how to prepare themselves, having their emergency bags. Also, over the next couple of weeks, there'll be the shelter assessment to designate those safe spaces. I know in terms of Union Island, it will definitely be a challenge because the shelter, the main shelter that stood the test of time, it's still occupied with shelterees. So we have just over 30 persons in the Learning Resource Center in Union Island. And we are working to see how we can assist those persons in getting back to their homes. But we do need to look for alternative spaces, and that is something that we have been working on as well.
And to add, Cecil, to some of the things that Dr. Ferdinand has said, is that NEMO has been a very proactive agency throughout this storm. NEMO they developed systems, and this storm would have tested some of the systems they would have developed. And Dr. Ferdinand can attest to the fact that they have had meetings where they have reviewed what actually happened. So what went wrong? How could we get it better? And they have not just done it within their team. They have brought in all the team from different ministries. They had Sedima here and they ran workshops, and they had some of the major players within the Grenadines, whether it was the police, the healthcare system, and even just community members who played an essential role in the recovery process or during the early response process to the storm. So they've been learning and they've been adapting.
Well, in fact, more directly, I want to ask, to what extent are you seeing the manifestation of these, the effect of this kind of exposure training, if you like? Have you started to see them in actual existence?
I think we saw it during the storm. If some of that preparation work was not done, the result would have been very, very different, or it could have been a lot worse.
But since the training that you're talking about, though, the post burial,
Right. So,
have you begun to see the manifestation of those kind of training
right. So
among people are talking about?
right. So, for example, on Union Island, the management of the warehouse is by those community persons who have been trained, right? In terms of the shelter and so on, those have been coordinated by persons who have gotten the exposure. We have since gone in and done a broader shelter management training for persons in the community. We have community groups that are assisting in terms of helping persons with water security and all of that. So you can see even in terms of the environment and managing the environment and ensuring that the level of exposure that existed before is not there. Persons are doing their own preparedness at home.
Yep.
And ensuring that as they rebuild, that they are rebuilding with certain things in place to reduce the impact that a hazard like a hurricane could have on their homes. So we have seen where the efforts of NEMO's work in terms of sensitization and preparedness, it's taken shape, and sometimes the disaster experience can really help to propel people in terms of assisting with building their own resilience, right? Because NEMO can preach and we can put all of
Precisely.
the systems in place, but the persons at the individual and family level has to take a certain level of responsibility.
That's why I asked the question.
And we are seeing
But
that.
okay.
Cecil,
yes.
I haven't heard much about PSV and Palm Island. Anybody could tell us what is the situation of those?
Well, even so, as well, Myro.
Well, I know we mentioned Myro
No, I
already,
spoke a bit about
I haven't
Myro.
heard much at all about PSV and Palm Island, two private entities.
PSV and Palm Island, they would have written to the government, and I think PSV would outline a plan, and Palm Island a plan that they have to rebuild and their possible expansion into the future.
But that is being done by the private entity that operates them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I notice people have started to call in to the program, so let's invite some calls now. 457-9997 is the number. You can get us there on WhatsApp as well as the regular line. You can send us a message also. You can call us on WhatsApp, voice, or you can send us a message as well. So if you wish to add to the discussion and to ask question of our guests, that's the number you call. 457-9997 is the number. I wanted to ask also that in your interaction with people, well, I know Dr. Ferdinand, you said earlier on when there's a shower rain or something, people get kind of a little bit, which is understandable. But in your interaction with them, do you get a sense that they are mindful and they are more ready in the event. I know they're worried, but what's the sense that you pick up from them from your interaction?
Most definitely, persons are building back better. And that is what we are encouraging,
Okay.
even not just the homeowners, but the contractors that are working with them, that building back better is our aim. And I think from the interaction with persons, because somebody came into the office and they said, oh, they're putting back my roof the same as it was before, and I'm concerned that, I mean, that is not the best way, and so on. And when persons have those concerns, we bring in the contractors, bring in the homeowner, and we'll explain certain things. And
Doctors, for the holy point, let us take this call. Good morning. Welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome
I
to the
am
program.
Audrey Gittins.
Good to hear you. Good to hear you.
Yes. Listening to the program, you really have to get information straight from the horse's mouth to get a picture, to get the facts of what is really happening. Because when you are an outsider, from the outside looking in, we can make assumptions, we listen to what we hear others say, and we form conclusions without really having access to the facts, without really knowing what is going on. And I am proud of the ladies on your program this morning for the manner in which they are able to navigate the intricacies of the disaster, the manner in which they are able to coordinate all the efforts. Because when you have a disaster, you have different actors descending on the scene, you can actually end up with chaos and confusion and it not being really as helpful. But listening to how they describe what is happening in the southern Grenadines and the way they're able to navigate all of this for the rebuilding process, it can never be easy. I reflect on Hurricane Katrina and the devastating effect it had on New Orleans. And I recall up to recently that people are still displaced, and that is the great United States of America. The rebuilding process in that state and surrounding states which were affected by Hurricane Katrina. People their lives have not been restored, they're still displaced. And in our little 2x2 with our small economy, we're able to use the skills, the knowledge, skill, the expertise, and the will of our people to achieve what we have achieved so far in the Southern Grenadines. Nothing will happen overnight. Absolutely nothing can happen overnight. But I applaud them for the effort at rebuilding, not just like Pigeon mentioned, I think about not just the structural rebuilding, but the overall lives of people, to bringing back some semblance of the quality of life that they had before, and even trying to make it better than it was. I admire that spirit. I admire the spirit of our people, and I congratulate all the experts in the various fields, whether it is construction, whether it is in counseling, whatever it is putting all the pieces together to get us to the point at which we are at now in the Southern Grenadines. And based on how the experts, the persons responsible describe it, we are definitely heading in the right direction. And I wish the people of Southern Grenadines all the best. For those who are still, and it's understandably traumatized, I hope that with their assistance over time, because that's how the mind works, it doesn't happen immediately, that over time they will overcome those challenges and all will be back to normal. Once again, I just want to thank and congratulate the ladies and the panel, and just to say that I'm very proud of you, that you're holding things down, holding the fort, holding the reins, channeling the course to rebuild the Southern Grenadines. I thank you.
Hold on, Dr. Gittins. Hold on. I think
I think she's
No, I didn't have a question. I
Oh,
wanted
oh.
to comment behind her.
Okay.
I wanted, but thank you, Dr. Gittins. But I want to also jump in here and say that it's not just us. There are persons who would have led the way before us. On Myra, for example, we have Desmond and Owen and the people from the YWAM. They would have held the fort before Dr. Ferdinand, myself, and even the government would have gotten to Myro. On Canawan,
Sergeant Tim.
we have Sergeant Tim. We have Glenn, as the minister would have spoken about before. Mr. Pompey, Mr. Ian Wace and the Gumbalimbo team. They would have done, and other persons, I am sure, from Canawan who I didn't mention. On Union Island, we have Abdon, we have Lesroy, we have Derek, we have John Aki,
Snag.
we have Mr. Snag, we have Lorna Bob, we have a lot of other persons, chambers, who would have held down these islands before this structure got into place. And we cannot, it would be remiss of us to just accept all the praise today without recognizing them.
That is definitely true, but I definitely won't start to list names, because if we start to list names,
No,
we
of
could
course.
get ourselves in
In
trouble, or we could
and
pay
more,
all
and
day,
a lot more.
you know. So I would not go that far, but
I was only going to ask broadly about the level of solidarity among the people. And from what you have said, there is a high level of solidarity.
Yes, I wasn't there. My apologies. I had other commitments, but the stories I get from each of the islands, the locals band together. It was a time that they had to band together. The leaders led, and everybody worked together for the betterment of their island.
that's definitely true.
And you know, that collaboration and that support from the community and all of the different entities, it still exists. I mean, there's Finleg, there's water, there's the police, there are community groups in some of these islands, and we continue to work together. The churches, you know, have also been doing an excellent job. So it's not disaster response recovery, it's never a one-man show. It has to be a collaborative effort.
And I would also like to highlight the fact that it was a sense, the kind of leadership and the way that we were guided initially after the storm, even before the storm, because Friday afternoon, there was whispers that there was some development that was happening in the basin, but that was just it. But Saturday morning, we were all called into an emergency meeting, and then we heard some of the terms that we never heard before, like rapid intensification. Right? And then we all knew, okay, so this isn't going to be just a few wind and wave, because that's initially what we heard. We heard it was just going to be a small tropical wave. And then everyone started to monitor, and you just saw the escalation, and then everybody's trying to track the location, and the location kept changing from what was the original track. And even after that, after the initial event of the storm, we had meetings weekly, sometimes more than once a week, with the Prime Minister being the chair. And he led us through the whole disaster relief effort by the law. He would bring the legal instrument, and he would say, are we doing XYZ? Each agency, each government department had to report, and everyone in the room was aware of what was happening and how it was supposed to happen. And those lines of communications always remained open. So there wasn't a time for separation. It was, and when you look at the scope of the disaster, Cecil, there was no other way to get through it but working together.
So you're saying, basically what I hear you saying is that leadership played a pivotal role.
Yes. An experience.
And experience.
An experience, yeah.
And when you say experience, say a bit more. What do you mean experience?
Well, the Prime Minister will talk about how often we have been hit by disasters, and he's already quite analytical and very methodical. So that experience plus his way of leading, it results in success on the ground. I
Okay.
don't know if I can put it another way, but
Yeah.
that's what it is.
So leadership and
And
leadership
experience.
plus experience equals success.
Yes, and it's all of the other government departments and agencies as well. I can speak to Nemo and Miss Forbes and her team and how she's able to pull her team together and everyone knows what they're supposed to do and they get the work done.
And then there's also those 10 national subcommittees,
Yes.
relief, shelter, health, security, and there's a certain expectation. They have their roles, their responsibilities. They have the different entities that are working together under these subcommittees. And so for the system to work, there has to be a certain level of leadership at all levels. And they report back to the Prime Minister when we have these weekly meetings.
We have a call, and let's take the call and then we'll come back to continue. Good morning. Welcome to the program, my friend and colleague and comrade.
Yes, good morning, Cecil. This is Chris.
Chris, greetings.
Pigeon.
Good morning, sir.
And the guests in studio, Benava,
Morning.
Ferdinand, and
Stuart.
Miss Stewart.
Good morning.
Somebody was making a point there, and was never able to develop it properly because I think a call came in. I don't know if it's Miss Ferdinand.
Yeah, it
She
was
meant
Dr.
because
Ford and I
today-
interrupted, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that what she was going to talk about there, why we are in this position today. So I'd like her to finish developing what she was saying, because it has implications going forward.
Recollect tell us what you heard.
Well, what she was saying that some residents whose roofs are being repaired, they would come and complain that they put it on the roofs the same way
Oh,
that
yes.
they were when they got that.
Oh, yes. I remember,
And
yes.
I spent some time in St. and I've seen it too. And I'm getting a little worried about
No, well, let's hear what you have to
Okay,
before you
let
get
you
this.
finish.
Let's hear what let's have her complete her thoughts. Yes, Doug.
Right. So you're correct. As I was saying that the plan is to build back better, right? To have a more resilient housing structure, and even the residents are aware of certain things. So what I was saying is that the homeowners, they are paying attention. And so if the persons who is reconstructing their roof is not doing it in a way that they think is safer, they come to the office and they complain. And so we work with assessors. We have our assessors from housing, and we have planning, which is a regulatory agency for our building codes and standards. And they are there on Union Island almost weekly, assessing the way that the construction is going. And when they identify problems, we work on addressing those problems. So we are not just building for the sake of getting things done quickly. And I know some of our homeowners, they may think that, oh, the process is going too slow. But we are trying to ensure that when we rebuild, we are rebuilding a stronger housing stock, because we don't want to go back to normal. We want to bounce forward to a better state than we were before, because we were at normal and Beryl affected us at normal. So we want to be in a better place than we were before, and that is what we are working towards. It may not be as quick as you would expect it to be, but it's sure, and we are trying our best to ensure that our housing stock can withstand at least a Category 4 hurricane. We know that when it comes to nature, that there are some things we cannot control, but we are doing our best to build back better.
And that is critical, and you got to stay on top of that, because contractors tend to they have the tendency to run shortcuts across the construction zone in order to get things done more quickly. And I'm glad you guys are on top of that. And I'm hoping that the rest of Simmons is listening so that they could follow suit. Because I went down, saw some roofs being repaired, and just like the residents alleged down in the Southern Grenadine, that's what some of the contractors were doing. So we have to be careful. If we got to be, we got to go a little slower to get it right. I think we should do that and concentrate on that. But I'm listening, and seems you guys have this thing under control, so there's no need for me to get involved.
No. Every bit of advice makes the process better.
No, it's good. I've listened. They got it. They got it.
All right. Thanks for calling.
Nice.
Yes. Okay. Yes. You were making a point when the call came in, but I guess you've covered it. We have another call though, and let's go to the call. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning to the panel. Good morning to the staff. When did they come? Well, I agree with the lady. When the lady says, well, if with the house, if you have to wait a little thing, I mean, when she say, well, you have to refix it good. And if you have to wait, yeah, because you see, as what she say, when we rebuild, we ain't want to be weak, and we want to be in a stronger, building and web it. Yeah, I agree with she 100% when did they come. And if they don't learn, and if they have to wait, they have to wait. The materials have to come, or wherever it be, the workman, let it be when did they come. Okay, then.
All right. Well, thank you very much, my friend. I'm glad to hear your voice early in the program. And Pigeon, it's funny enough, when Chris was on before him, Chris used a term, and I was going to say, when did they come? And there it is. Our friend is calling us. You remember him, Pigeon?
Yes. Remember him.
Good to hear him.
Actually, my neighbor now.
Oh, he is. Okay. So he's on the ball. He's on the ball when the day comes. I'm sure people like Chris would be happy that he's back on the ball with Isiot. Yeah, so he's in agreement. I want to ask about, we've been talking about, well, housing generally. We have structures generally. I want to ask about roads. Has that been a challenge, and how are you dealing with that?
Roads has not been a major challenge. The main issue was the cleanup. As was said before, there were lots of rubble and so on that were collected on the roadside, and most of that have been taken out by barge. There's a bridge that is under repair, and that I think was a major road work that needed to be done on Union Island in particular. So I don't think road was a major challenge.
I think that piece of road, it would have broken away or became structurally unsound after trucks traverses that were too heavy.
Oh, okay.
You can understand there were definitely a lot more heavy equipment traffic that was brought into the Southern Grenadines, but more or less the roads we've been fixing as we identify them. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And how about the wharf, the jetty structures?
The jetty structures.
Yes.
So, as Minister of Port.
Oh, that's you. Of course.
It's like you brought me here to line me up. In Canawan, the port in Canawan, that has been over the years, it has been criticized. But we saw the opportunity here through the passage of Hurricane Beryl, where we have strengthened the existing port, and we have basically, I could say, redone that port area in Kanawan, and it's very beautiful now. The structure that is there, it's not going to be the permanent structure. We still have to look towards the permanent structure, but it's definitely more stable. Some work has also been done in Myro to strengthen up the existing wharfs as well as to replace jetties that were damaged during the passage of Hurricane Beryl. In terms of even the lighting and the navigational system, porters constantly have been inspecting those and assessing those and trying to remedy them as soon as a issue becomes known. Sometimes because I've been so back and forth in the Grenadines, you have so much connections down there now. Sometimes I'm the one who's reporting any areas to the port of that needs their attention.
And you mean reporting in cabinet?
No, as in, well, I reported
Just-
to port.
Oh,
the
to
port
port.
authority.
Oh,
I would
I
call
see.
them and I would let them know.
Okay.
I just got a call from Myro. They said XYZ.
Okay.
We had the whole issue of the management of the port in Union Island. The port office is now back at work. So she would be managing the port, what is left on the jetty, and ensuring that it's safe for everyone to use.
There was recently there was a contingent of Romanians in Kanawan and then on to Union Island, as I understand it, assisting with the construction of houses.
Yeah.
Placing.
And other government
And
infrastructure.
all right. And I understand they're returning sometime. A batch is coming back sometime.
Yeah.
Give us an update on how has that gone, and how did they fit into the social life and the whole question of living in St. Vincent and in particular the Grenadines. How has that gone?
I think by now they would consider St. Vincent their second home. They've adjusted very quickly. And these gentlemen, they worked really, really hard. This gentleman and a soul lady, they worked really, really, really hard. I was told that they would start at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to 8 o'clock at night. And the kind of work that they were able to do, it is beautiful. They would have recycled some of the waste, galvanized and other waste materials into containers into new structures as well. Yeah. So they would have worked on the school in Kanawan, the port, the admin building in Kanawan, fisheries, I think they would have done as well. They did some work on the police station, as well as doing other homes.
The ferry terminal.
Yes, and then in
then
the
the
RRU building in Union
Island.
Island, where they increase what could be the capacity of that building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how were they received by locals?
They were very well embraced.
Yeah.
Give us a sense of how well it is.
You know, when they came over, they had a team that went over to Union Island to do roof repairs. And I remember going by Miss Joy James one day to get meals, because I tell you, people would prepare their meals from home.
Okay.
And her house had all these tools. And I was like, what's going on here? She said, no, this is the home of the Romanians. This is their storage.
Oh,
So they come and they leave their stuff here. The morning Miss Joy, and they take up their equipment the next day and they go back. And they worked well with people. They had local food experiences from homeowners that they were repairing their roofs.
Okay.
It was a good experience. Nobody complained about them. Everybody was happy with
And
their
the
work.
general public, I think they all looked and were appreciating the level of work they did and the long hours. Everyone was definitely appreciative of that. We're talking about non-stop work, Cecil. Midday sun, these men are out there and they're just continually going. And you saw the results in how quick they were able to do some of the projects.
And some our local tradesmen, did they mesh? How did they interact with them?
We haven't
On
had any
site.
problem at that level at all. As a matter of fact, they would exchange ideas and so on. I think they've really worked well, and we see a similar thing with the Guyanese. They fit in quite well. If you don't see them in their uniform, you don't
wouldn't
know that they are not from there. They just
And they're not the only, let's say, foreigners who would have come in and helped work, because we have some crews from St. Lucia that were working in the Ashton area, and they were there very early.
But then you have to remember to the Grenadine hospitality.
Yes.
Well, you tell us about it.
You have to remember the
my own
Grenadine
experience,
hospitality.
but I have my own experience with Union. But I mean, so
It
you
goes
have to talk
across
about
the Grenadines.
Okay.
Union, Canawan, Myro, Beckway, the Grenadines has this special hospitality.
Okay.
So they will make anyone and everyone feel welcome.
Okay.
Yes.
But I want to ask go back to the Romanians. How did they cope with the language? I know was there a big issue with the language? I mean, they spoke English good enough.
I have never heard, about any language barriers, right? At all, yeah.
No.
Okay. So it was generally then a good idea to have them come.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It
work.
was
Oh,
definitely.
yes.
Yes, they brought a new kind of skill set, a new way of doing things.
Do
They
you
told
get the sense that our local people are emulating some of the traits, the work habits demonstrated by the Romanians? Is there a possibility of that happening?
they would have worked side by side each other.
Yeah,
So
and
there definitely was the experience or the ability to learn and shield scare.
From them and them from our locals as
Yes.
well.
But what I also find with the contractors is that once they're given a task to do, they work and ensure that it's done, whether it's holiday. I remember when we were preparing to break for Christmas, I mean, they were concerned about getting materials because they wanted to work up to Christmas Eve, right? So I think the important thing is getting the work done and not really looking at, the work they starts at 8 and end at 4.
Yeah,
Right,
because
people
even
just
when
get
we were
work
in the
done.
rush to try
Yes.
and get schools back up and going, you saw contractors pulling some long, long hours, whether or not they had to bring on additional crews, but they worked.
Is there a return movement from other areas, particularly main back to Union or Canavan? Are people coming back to?
There
to
is, and persons are anxious to get back.
Mhm.
Most persons that you interact with, they are anxious to get back. The students are anxious to come back to school. In most cases, there may be the one or two cases where.
Sorry, you mean anxious to come back to schooling in Union?
Yes.
Oh, Canavan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's where family is.
Yes.
It's where their ancestors lie, right? So they're persons who have that connection to place, right? And so they are anxious to get back to their friends, to their family, to their surroundings, and so on.
And a lot of people are happy to see Union Island return into a Union Island that is recognizable, or Southern Grenadines that is recognizable. Because many of the people, when they would have left, they left. They left at the point when it was bad in terms of the disaster, and a lot of work has been done. So they're seeing that. They're seeing that homes are becoming roofs again. So things are slowly getting back to normal.
I think most of the persons from Canawan have returned home.
Okay.
Yeah, Canawan, I can say, is up and normal. Back to normal. Myro, they're about 95% completed. So that would mean a lot of return for that island as well. Union Island, I think, is where the challenge is. And even though the challenge is there, you are seeing once the roof is completed, and recently we got windows. So windows have been, put in homes, and so you see the return. You are seeing the return of persons. Up to Thursday of this past week, we did a one-on-one clinic. We sat with persons because we wanted to identify exact situations with people who are being housed on the mainland. Come in, have a conversation with us. Tell us where you are. And we got from that a more updated situation of where these persons' houses are. From that meeting on Thursday, we were able to identify 3 families who all they want is the windows replaced, and they can be back down by May. So that session gave us the opportunity to say, okay, then we have X amount of people who they still don't have land. They have this group, their roofs are completed. They just need the windows. This group, the roof completed, the windows in. They need a little assistance with the electricals, and that was the purpose of the clinic. So though some people are just small things, those have been achieved because the window project has started about 2 weeks now. So we have seen where persons are returning.
So there's a window project.
Yes.
So to say.
I mean, the thing is, you have to look at this. There are different,
Very concrete.
many different parts,
Mm.
right? And so in initial stages, it was getting roofs back on.
Okay.
And then you realize, okay, the roofs are back on. What are some of the other
But you have no
gaps?
windows.
Right? There are no
I know.
windows, there are no doors. So we're working on that. And then you would hear, okay, what about
Electricity,
the
wiring.
the wiring and the plumbing and the water tanks and so on. So there
How
are
about
many
things
different-
like the higher purchase agreements that may have lapsed as a result of temporary unemployment? Is there any focus
Well-
on that kind of issues?
You mean with the commercial entities,
commercial
like,
entities,
like
yeah.
fridges,
Yeah.
chair sets, and so on? How is that being handled?
Fortunately or unfortunately, Dr. Ferdinand, that's not one of the issues they come to us with.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Okay,
know if it's
okay.
a fortunate or
hasn't come to me
unfortunate
either.
situation, but
Okay.
it's not one of the things that the residents come to seek assistance
But
with.
as if I heard sometime the news or something that some people were being provided with
I
some
was just
furnishing.
going-
Yes,
say that.
we provide. The
Right,
government
yes.
has been
That's-
providing.
Tell us about that. How has that been going?
Right. So the state has been providing fridge, stoves, and mattresses.
mattresses.
Right. We've had some donation in terms of mattresses and some of these items, but largely the state is purchasing these appliances. So in terms of Union Island, for example, there have been the distribution of over 100 to over 100 families of appliances, and a similar thing has been done in Mairo, Canoan, Beckway, and on the mainland.
And when we say appliances, you talk about fridges,
Fridges,
stoves.
Fridge and
Yes.
stove, 4-burner stove, 6-burner stoves, fridges in different sizes, depending on whether it's a one person or a multiple person family. So you know,
And mattresses. Mattresses, you said.
with maybe thousands of mattresses. There's sometimes one family asks for 3
4 or
or
5.
5 mattresses, and so we've been providing that. We've had some donation, but largely again, it's the state have been purchasing these mattresses by the hundred.
And this is through Nemo.
Through
Nemo.
Nemo, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I mean, I think sometimes I have to caution persons and say, remember, it's St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and appliances don't cost $2. Right? If you think about purchasing a fridge, and I'm not, some of these fridges, they are very large, right? You have 4-burner stove, 6-burner stove. If you go into the stores and they are bought locally, right? So it's a couple $1,000, and so when sometimes the appliances don't come as quickly as they would like it, then persons say, "Oh, I am still cooking on wood fire." I got that just last week.
Well, Gawa would be pleased about that.
And then we have to remember too that some persons were in a ready state to receive,
Oh yes.
and
Right.
others weren't.
Right.
Right.
So you may not have gotten because you were not in a ready state. You didn't have a roof at that time, or electricity. So it made no sense
Yes.
for you to get the stove or the fridge at that time.
Okay. Okay.
Well, it's an ongoing
Okay.
process, and what we have done is we've collected a database of families with different requests for appliances and mattresses. And so we are using that to guide us, and we are also using the completion of roof, electricity, and so on to guide the process. So it's not just a haphazard thing.
Pigeon, did I get to you the question you asked?
Yes.
Yeah.
And how about regular occupation, jobs? How close are we to pre-burial situation?
I think the job situation, especially on Union Island, we're still a bit out because the businesses got to be rebuilt. They're in the rebuilding process. If you were to go to Clifton now, you would see the restaurants under construction and all of that. So in those cases, because a lot of the persons on the island are self-employed, you know, they are waiting on those small businesses to get up and running again. Some of the fishermen are still waiting. They have to fix or replace their boats in order to get back out to work. CMOS vendors have started. They start back with their CMOS thing. So the Union Island may have a setback in terms of employment. Canoan is back to normal. Myro is getting there. But it's just Union Island that there may be a setback. And we'd have to understand that because those businesses had to rebuild. It's like
They were destroyed.
yeah, the buildings
They were, yeah.
were destroyed.
Right, the buildings.
And the government were focused on getting houses so people
Dwelling
can
houses.
done. Yes. So the business owners, they are now trying to focus on their business. Of course, that is not to say that if a business owner comes into our office and say, you know, I can you guys help me with a few pieces of galvanized, and within reason, we do.
Okay.
Dr. Ferdinand can confirm that. Yeah. We're not committing to rebuilding someone's business.
I know what you mean.
But if we can assist, we usually do.
And we've seen some new employment come on stream because the community kitchen, for example, each of them, they're two employed, 13 to 14 persons. The housing storeroom employed 5 persons. And many of the contractors have taken on additional staff so that they could, when they have 2 or 3 houses, then they can have different teams that are working on these homes. So there have been some new opportunities for employment. Initially, when they were doing the cleanup and so on, persons were employed. So there may be short-term employment in some cases. So, you know, we're getting there.
I know we're not dealing, it's not a gender focused program, but I have to admit that I've seen stories of young women working in non-traditional areas.
Yes,
has there been
definitely.
much of that?
Throughout the cleaning process, you can talk about when they were cleaning galvanized, women were actively and heavily involved in the cleaning operations there, and they've moved into other sectors. They're in construction and different sectors.
Electrical.
Yeah.
I've seen those.
Yes.
So that's why I'm raising it, and to find out to what extent is that happening.
We have seen it growing. I mean, I think the thing is persons just work where they can find
employment.
And even people who may have been displaced to the mainland, they're seeking opportunities on the mainland as well. But it's training opportunities, because I know one young lady, she told me she's doing one of those evening classes to actually get a skill set to prepare her for when she moves back down. So people are taking different opportunities or making use of their time.
Yeah, that's something that we have recognized, and we're going to have to figure out how to deal with it. But a lot of the young people from Union Island who would have just about complete secondary school had to be relocated. They would have registered in the community college or one of the TVET programs.
Yes.
So moving back in September, they're wondering because they would like to complete those programs
course.
because it would give them more opportunity, better opportunity when they return home. So we have seen that persons on mainland have taken advantage of that opportunity and enrolled either in the community college or some sort of TVET program and want to complete that program.
And provisions going to be made for that?
Well,
Do you know?
we have
To what extent are you pushing for provision to be made?
I would love provisions to be made for that. I'm speaking it into existence here. I'm hoping the minister is hearing me, so when she goes to cabinet, she can now, shed some light on that. But I have definitely on Thursday at the clinic, I met 3 young ladies who are enrolled in programs, and they're concerned if our home is ready.
TVET programs or
the community college.
Community college, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
know.
sorry, you finish your thought.
And they're asking me, Ms. Stewart, so if our house is completed by September, what do we do? Because we would only have completed the first day of the program. And I'm like, we'll find a way. I don't know how.
Yeah, we'll find a way. Definitely, we'll find a way. Prior to the storm even hitting, the government had already spoken about and declared its plans to establish a TVET center in Union Island.
Okay.
So there were already those plans that were being pursued. However, the storm would have put those a bit off course as well as other plans that we had for Union Island. So slowly and surely we try to get our ship back on course. That's that's the way we could put it. To be able to offer opportunities to the people of the Southern Grenadines.
We have also employed new drivers because now there's a school bus and there are several other vehicles on island that were not there before. We have employed assessors, storeroom clerks and porters. So new employment have been created as a result of burial.
And the school bus is something that the teachers and staff and the students have been lobbying for in Union Island for quite some time. And that is in full operation now.
I'm looking at my phone. Somebody is asking Minister about the port, but I don't want you to respond now because I just want to use the opportunity to announce that next program next week we're going to be having the engineer Linsky Douglas on program with us next week. So I just want to tell the person who's asking that there will be a full report from Linsky next week. But also, Minister, we are open always to you. So if you want to,
I could pop by with Linsky.
It's up to you. But yes, Linsky is already committed for next week to be on the program. So my friend, that's what it is. We have a call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
I want to say congratulations and a great job by Dr. Ferdinand, Ms. Stewart, and Minister Brown in the Southern Grenadines.
But tell us who's who's giving congratulations.
I believe they pick up the voice by now.
Nyron Collis.
Did you hear Stuart? Did you hear Stuart? She said Nyron Collis.
Yes, Nyron Collis.
Yes, and she got that correct.
Oh, so you're confirming. That's what I was trying to get.
Hello?
No, go ahead. I was just saying that I'm confirming.
I said I'm truly honored to be working with these ladies in the recovery effort in the Southern Grenadines, especially on Union Island. I have seen their leadership throughout this process. We are getting there, but there's still enough work to be done, a lot of work to be done. But as long as everybody joins together with the team, we can conquer a lot more. So I just want to tell the ladies in the studio to keep up the great work that they are doing. The people are seeing, the people are pleased, and we know our reward will come from above. Our reward is not from earth. As we celebrate this Easter season, I am resting.
that's a low one. Come on, Naira. That's a low one, man.
To start next week while the coordinator for housing and the coordinator for the relief effort is in studios.
Yes, so you are resting. Okay, good.
Continue to do the great job and keep it up.
And Nairan, where are you calling from now?
I'm calling from St. Vincent.
Oh, from mainland. Yeah, from St. Vincent. Yeah. All
mainland.
right.
I
He's
came up as
resting.
well.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're resting.
Resting for Canawan coming up.
All right.
Yes, this week the housing fee will be heading to Canada.
All right. Okay. And you will be part of you would be a member of the team?
Yes, I am the supervisor of assessors.
Okay, so you'd be heading to
And I'm
Canawan.
going to the Southern Grenadines.
So you will be heading to Canawan as a member of the team?
Yes.
All right then.
Yes.
I'm sure the people in Canawan will be pleased to hear you.
And then Myro, and then we head over to Union.
All right then.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for calling. So go ahead.
No, I'm locked on.
All right then. Thanks for calling.
Yeah.
And have a good day. Rest well. Have a good rest.
Well, you know what that means? He should be well energized for Tuesday.
You know? You know.
Well energized for Tuesday.
Of course. Yes, let me again just use the opportunity to remind our followers and listeners that Engineer Linsky Douglas will be on-site project engineer at the Modern Port. Lindsay Douglas will be in studio with us next week, and the invitation is open to Minister Brown if she wishes. It's all up to her to be here with us next week, but we will be here discussing the port, having an update, and to answer questions if people have questions. We have another call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ryan. Good afternoon, Miss Brown,
Good
and
afternoon.
Miss Jude. My high school cultural activist. A long time I see you there, a bright star. And I appreciate your work. You may not know who's speaking, but from the high school culture parade, you had a great impression on me as a lady for social transformation. And I appreciate your work and everything I hear about you.
But which of the ladies you're going on? Which of the ladies you're referring to?
My high school.
I don't know. People don't know who is the high school. Tell us which of them.
Stuart.
Oh, Stuart.
High school parade,
When
man.
he said cultural parade, I realized it was me.
Yes.
Yeah. I like what I'm hearing about you and keep the good work going here. And everybody, Miss Brown and everybody.
And Dr. Ferdinand.
Yes.
And Dr. Ferdinand.
Yes.
Everybody must be there, but a special hail up to Miss Jude.
Thank you.
Okay, good day.
All right. But he didn't tell us. Did he tell us who he is? I mean, we know who he is, but I thought that's Kwame.
He was from culture.
Yes.
With Roma.
Yeah, that's Kwame. That's
Yeah,
Kwame.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. He's one of our regular participants in the program. Pijan, you seem to want to come in.
No.
Okay. So yes, I was saying that next week we'd have a very exciting discussion.
I think you're waiting for me to openly comment on it. That's what you're trying to push, Mr. Ryan.
Yeah. Anyway, we could. It's up to you. And
I will be here, Mr. Ryan.
All
I
right,
think
well, there you go.
he has confirmation.
yes, he confirmed since last week when we spoke. So now we can say Minister Brown and Linsky Douglas will be on the program next week for sure, talking about the port, Kingston.
So,
Modern
Mr.
Port.
Ryan, let me take this opportunity to talk.
Yes, of course.
On Thursday, we had a one-on-one session with persons from Union Island who are living on mainland currently.
Mhm.
We put out a call and we asked them to come sit one-on-one. Let's hear your situation, where you're at, how far you're away from moving home, so we can get you there faster. Because sometimes, persons could get missed out.
Yes, yes.
And we wanted to make sure we capturing everyone. And it was a successful clinic. Mr. Collis was there, myself was there. We invited last minute, and thankfully we got a representation from mobilization in the way of Miss Gayan. So she was able to, as someone from the island, to be able to help us understand the needs more of those people, because some of them would have come. They were renting, they lost, the house is lost, the owner is not rebuilding. And, she was able to confirm the stories, how many persons in the family, if they have disabilities, whatever, so we can know what to recommend. Because we have to recommend stuff to HLDC. We may recommend a 2-family or 3-family. It has to be approved and all of that stuff. And it was a very successful event. We have another one coming this Thursday. So we are asking persons on mainland to come in, so that we can hear from you, and we would not have known that this person was probably waiting for 2 or 3 windows just to be able to move back home and all of that. So it helps in that regard. And like I said, I just wanted to use this opportunity to plug, to tell people, come again. It's this coming Thursday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Director of Grenadines Affairs office at the cruise ship berth. Come with your questions and concerns, and we would be more than happy to answer. Persons are asking, when are we going to have one on Canawan? A date is going to be announced. We have plans to have a clinic on Canawan as well, and one on Myro. So look out for those dates. We're going to announce them, but there will be a clinic on Canawan and one on Myro as well. One of the things that we would have recognized coming out of all of these efforts is that people on Union Island, when we do the clinic in Myro, we would know, and Union and Canawan will know, but from Union Island, we recognize they have a lot of land questions. So we had a conversation with a representative from Land and Surveys, and we are in conversation about having a clinic on the island conducted by Land and Surveys.
That's on Union Island?
On Union Island. Yes. For 2 days. We're supposed to meet again on Tuesday, have a discussion on Tuesday to come up with a date where we make those persons available, and persons from the island can come in and ask questions about there are a lot of questions. Some of them, I would have purchased government land how much years ago. My father would have bought it. He passed away. The payment wasn't completed. Where am I in this process now? How do I go about getting a change of ownership for the land, and all of those questions? So we are working on a clinic for that, and it should be coming up soon. And I just wanted to share that information.
Is there going to be a legal voice?
Well, we recognize the need for a legal voice as well, because legal land issues in the Grenadines is another thing. So I haven't explored that yet. How are we going to deal with the legal part, whether we need to do a separate legal clinic and where we need to tap in to get the resources for that. But there's definitely need for that. We know there's need. How are we going to go about it? If we're going to incorporate both or have 2 separate clinics, I'm not certain at this time.
Because you may wish to have somebody from the, consider having somebody from the Attorney General's
AG Chambers. Yes.
Yeah. It sounds exciting and interesting going forward. Yeah. I don't know if there's any particular aspect that any of you want to emphasize before we move on.
We are a couple of months away from the hurricane season, which starts June the 1st. And so as we go about our normal operation, as we in the Southern Grenadines seek to rebuild, we just want to remind persons to ensure that they make the necessary preparation for the hurricane season, which would include storing up some additional food supplies. Normally, I would say to persons, every time you go to the supermarket, ensure that you buy an item or 2 that would form part of your emergency food supply in particular, because we know that immediately post impact, even if we are not seriously affected, you may not be able to access food and so on. So continue to do the preparation, continue to pay attention to the public service announcement and so on by NEMO, and ensure that you and your family, every child, every adult, that you are prepared, you have your family emergency plan. NEMO normally assists with that, and there are quite a number of community groups that are out there that work along with NEMO, the Red Cross, and so on, and they can provide guidance and support. So let us just be aware. Let us continue to work together in the recovery process. Recovery doesn't happen overnight. It takes work, it takes dedication, it takes communication, it takes coordination. And once we continue to work together, we would achieve the level of success that we are looking for.
Is Minister, is the state still facilitating the travel between
No.
from the mainland?
No, that would have concluded the beginning of this month. What the state is now concentrating on is the transportation of state goods that go in towards the rebuilding effort and facilitating the recovery process in the Grenadines. So from that, we would be working along with Housing NEMO to send down what it is their weekly building supplies, and we do this whether or not, depending on how big the cargo might be, whether it is we just pay to ship the cargo or we might have to rent the boat, charter the boat to facilitate the transfer of the materials.
And I was to ask, as a follow-up, when you talked about the window project, have residents received windows already?
Yes, they have. One of the ways that we are doing this is that the Guyanese contingent is assisting with the installation of the doors and windows. Yes,
so
but in
okay.
other cases where there's a contractor that's working on site and can do the installation, they would go ahead and do that. But in some cases, the roofs were repaired months ago, and they were just waiting on windows and doors, and so the Guyanese soldiers are assisting with that.
As somebody said, and in fact, as you yourself have said, the process seems very organized.
We do our best. Yes.
Yes, actually, I mean, I was wondering what the Guyanese were doing, but now you said it. In this time there.
They're doing quite a lot.
They have different skill sets, you know.
Yes.
So
Okay.
it's dependent on their skill set.
So there are plumbers, electricians, carpenters, masons, engineers. So it's a well-rounded team, and they're assisting on several different projects. They're doing roof, they're doing plumbing, they're doing electrical work, among other things.
Yes.
And they hit the
assist us.
ground running
Yes,
because they
yes,
arrived and they
definitely.
were straight.
Oh, okay.
Started
And
working immediately.
again, give us a sense of they coordinate with both of you, or
Yes, they coordinate with the office.
With the office.
There's a team of 40 persons. They have a contingent commander, Lieutenant Colonel France, and he coordinates with us, but he has also different team leaders who would coordinate depending on what is happening. And we have an office that is in, we call it the NEMO building. There's a big NEMO sign on it, but it used to be the tourism, the building with the tourism office downstairs. We now occupy upstairs before we operated from the Tobago Keys Marine Park. But some persons, I think, are not aware that we have moved over the last couple of weeks to the upstairs of that building with the big NEMO sign. You can see it as you come into the port and on the other side. So that's where we are based now.
and how convenient is that for residents? Is it? Would you
It's a
say?
central location.
Yes,
Central,
yes.
very convenient.
Very
Okay.
convenient.
The office is
It's
busy
as
all
soon
day.
as you walk off
Okay,
the
so
port.
it's busy, you said.
All day.
Okay. Minister, this is a question for him. Somebody's asking, are there plans while rebuilding to include waste disposal of part of the building?
Of the rebuild. Yes, definitely. We've been working in close collaboration with the CWSA. They would be in charge of the waste disposal. And we've been trying to recycle goods where possible, or not recycle material where possible, and even the compacting and compiling of waste material to be shipped off island in all of the islands. I could speak specifically to Canawan, where they would have gone into the old dump ground in Canawan or waste disposal site, and a lot of work would have been done there into compacting some of the material, and proper and better waste disposal methods were used. So we now have an expansion of the lifespan of that particular dump site.
So when you say compacting, is it similar to the landfill at the similar process to,
Yes,
as the
there's a
landfill?
compacting machine. So what it really does, it can bring down what would be a large amount
Yeah.
of waste into a cube
Okay.
size, and it's just metal or
Okay.
that aspect. So that has extended the lifespan of that particular waste disposal site. I know in Union Island before Hurricane Beryl, there were plans through the UBEC project to establish a new dump site in Union Island. But with everything that is happening, that I know plans are still on the way, but how fast we'd be able to roll out those plans is dependent on many other things.
All right. So let me remind our listeners and followers that the number to call is 457-9997, and you can call us on WhatsApp. You can also send us a text so we can read your question or your advice.
I know something that we probably didn't touch on fully this morning, but it would have been the work done by Vinlec. We would have said applaud to the Vinlec team. But I want to highlight some of the efforts made by
Yes.
Vinlec. Vinlec, they did a tremendous amount of work, and they did not do it by themselves. They did it through a lot of partnership, whether it was through Carilec or the help received from the Cubans, linemen, which came and they worked to help us to roll out the system. But right after the storm, when Vinlec did their assessment, the way to describe the outlook would have been dire. We were told we would have to wait probably months. We would not be seeing electricity on Union Island within this year. But Vinlec were able to basically outdo themselves, and they provided electricity. I could never forget the day when I received that picture of the first street light being turned on. The amount of joy I felt, because on mainland we had some areas had days without electricity and some had hours after the storm, and I know how everybody was just off balance. Everybody was missing the electricity. But in the Southern Grenadines, it was a lot more time that they had to spend without electricity. And I remember once when we went there, I met a lady at the clinic, and she was telling me she had a gash on her foot, and she came to get it treated and dressed. And she's saying to me, I'm diabetic, but you just don't know where things are, and when you have to move around in the dark, and what hassle that was. So right now on all of the islands, Vinlec would have been 100% restored.
You mean electricity?
Electricity would have been 100% restored, and in some areas Vinlec might have expanded the network. So areas where there weren't poles, there have now been poles. But one of the issues now that we have is the people's ability to accept the electricity. And this is where the work done by the housing unit, this is where we have to work hand in hand to make that happen. But I would like to say congratulations to Vinlec and all their partners for the tremendous efforts
Elaborate
made.
on the point about the house being ready to accept.
Ready to accept. So as we mentioned before, your house has to be, it's not just about your roof being on, your house has to be watertight. So windows is essential in part of that, and even rewiring. And the government, through the electrical inspectorate, they are often on site and they're always connecting people, and we are getting more and more people connected. But it's your ability to receive the electricity at this point. And this is, I think, last year, November, October, when we were sitting in those meetings, we were thinking, when are we going to get back electricity? But it's a tremendous amount of work that has gone into that.
I want to ask clearly, since burial, the country has received assistance from a number of entities overseas. Guyana, the contingents that's there, the Romanians and the St. Lucians and other people have come and assisted. Is that what you meant when you said earlier, Minister, the question of leadership? Is that, would you consider that as part of the leadership that was provided, and the fact that the country, and in particular the Prime Minister, is in touch with all these different entities?
Definitely. You can use the example of even the help from Gombolimbo and Mr. Wace. When the Prime Minister would have initially met with Mr. Wace, he was thinking about Canawan. His concentration and his mind was on Canawan because he owned a home there. But the Prime Minister took him to Union Island and showed him the level of devastation there, and it expanded the scope of the projects that were being done by Mr. Wace, and even, the impact of Mr. Wace. So if it wasn't without that kind of leadership, I don't know how much help we would have been able to garner. It's the relationship with President Ali of Guyana and the constant communication that allowed for the
Sorry
Guyanese team to be
can
here.
you hold on? We'll come back to that. I don't want to take this call as it is coming in. Oh, I just missed it. So go ahead. The call would come again.
Yes, so it was that continuous partnership and that leadership that allowed for the different teams to come in and to work.
Mm-hmm. So again, there's this kind of internationalist kind of
Yes.
Outlook, if you like, that's in this networking. Thank you very much. That we're able to get so
Yes.
much assistance to assist the process.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Now we have a call. Let's take the call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, WEFM.
Yes, it is. It's your hand on WEFM.
Am I on the program?
Yes, you are. You're live. The other people are hearing you.
Okay.
Tell us who you are and
Yes,
then go on. Tell us who you are.
Okay. You are Isaac. What Isaac from Vermont?
The Rasta man.
Okay. Long time, Mr. Ryan. I haven't called.
I know. How are things going? You good?
Yes, man, I'm good.
All right. Good to hear you now.
Yes. Yeah. In Canawan, in regard to the garbage disposal site, is the cleanest garbage disposal site I've ever saw.
It is.
What?
It
It
is.
is.
It is. Without a doubt.
It's well organized. It has compactors and everything. It's the cleanest garbage disposal site I've ever seen. I wish the one in mainland St. Vincent and others could be, just like that.
Well, there are two on St. Vincent, one in Belial and one at Diamond.
Yes.
So you're hoping for them to be like that?
Yes. It's extremely clean for garbage disposal site.
You sound as if people can go there and put up a dining table and eat.
Yes.
Yes, but that's good to know. Sorry, say again?
He said that's his
Yeah,
contribution.
so that's my contribution. Thanks.
All right, well,
Yeah, lots
nice to hear you, and hope we see each other again soon. All right, then. Bye-bye.
Okay.
A lot of
All
work
right.
was done on
Okay.
that site. So it's really,
So tell us, yes.
and they actually used the compressed
Material.
material to make like a back wall.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's really done nicely. Nice work.
Well, you've provided two reasons why I should hurry up and go to Union.
Canawan.
Canawan.
One.
The pizza, and now the cleanliness
There
of
are
the
other
disposal.
reasons.
No, there are a lot of other reasons.
No, no,
Canawan,
for
Canawan
me.
is it's beautiful. It
Yeah.
really is. The warm. The entrance is warm. It's
Yeah, I
done.
know.
It's nicely done.
Yes,
The
I know.
transformation to the port is
Yes.
Yeah, actually,
Playground.
I saw it on social media, and I thought that's another reason. Really, I want to experience it. Yes, okay.
No.
But there were some folks there about 3 weeks ago. I understand there was a big activity down there.
Oh, the Tommy Hilfiger.
The Tommy Hilfiger activity.
Yeah, Tommy Hilfiger had a shoot for one of his collections, so there were a lot of people on
Oh,
island.
that was only a shoot?
Yeah, it's about-
And it was a massive?
It's a lot of social media stars that were there, and they were all talking about Canawan and the Grenadines and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Mm.
Yeah, you're right. We had a little sign that said, "Welcome to Tommy Hilfiger." It was beautiful.
Okay.
Cute.
So what can we expect tourism wise coming out of that?
Well, you can already see the impact of it. Canawan, from what I've been hearing, the hotels have been 100% occupied. And there are other things that are happening in Canawan. I don't think we can mention them here, but you certainly see them, and you'll see them on a screen in your home soon. But there are other things that are happening on Canawan and in the Grenadines in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So the tourism buzz is not only in St. Vincent, it's definitely in the Grenadines as well.
So on the other hand, though, I hear people ranting, some people ranting, saying nothing is happening in the Southern Grenadines, or whatever is happening is too slow in the Southern Grenadines in terms of rebuilding and resettlement. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, but call.
Oh, okay. Let's take the call and we come back to that. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Afternoon, Mr. Ryan.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I could sit down all day and listen to that young minister.
Well, before you do that, you know my name, but I don't know. Give us a sense of who's calling and who wants to
My name is Milton. My name is Milton Oliver
Yes.
from Beckway.
Okay.
I work with her mom in Atley Hall. I used to be engineer the yachts and thing down there.
Okay.
I know Marva good, her mother.
Well, I would
Okay.
definitely
lady,
tell
man,
her
oh,
thank
like,
you.
I don't know. She's going to be a real good leader.
What do you mean she going to be? She not already one?
Yes, but she'll reach further than that.
Okay,
Listen to
okay.
that woman, she's so fluent, that young lady.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oliver. I would definitely give
Man, my head
your
raised, I tell you.
regards to mom. Well, I will be back next week. Mr. Ryan
Oh,
has
make sure you listen
confirmed
next
that
week,
I will
eh?
be back next week.
Yes, I know your mom good, Marva. I walk down, a nice lady.
All right. But and Minister Brown was reminding you, and I was encouraging you to make sure you listen to the program next week. Should be on again next week.
And
So I
we'll
will
be
do.
speaking
I
about
am-
port.
I think you know my wife, Lucille Cozier.
Okay, yes, she's a regular partner to the
yeah.
program. Yes. Okay, good to know
I'll
you.
continue the good work, man.
Thank you very much. And you have to join in too.
Yes, that's right.
All right.
All
Okay,
right,
thank you very
okay.
much.
Right,
Have a
bye-bye,
good day.
right.
Okay. Yes, sorry, Minister, you were saying you were talking before the call came in.
No, you were asking a question
Yes.
in relation to persons may say that nothing is
Oh
happening.
yes, that's right. Yeah.
And I
Well,
want to say
well,
that
I've heard some rumbling and some lamentation about nothing is things are happening too slowly and all of that. So I wanted you to respond to those lamentations.
You know, I tell people, for someone who has been going to Union Island from a child, it took years for all those houses to be built on Union Island. So it's impossible for any government or anyone to fix all of those houses in a space of 1 year or months. So it's going to take some time. It took years to build what's there now. It's going to take some time. Things are happening. Sometimes we buy out all of the galvanized before production could give us another batch.
Oh, okay.
You know, so some of what slows down the process has nothing to do with the government side of it. You know, so they just have to be patient. It's like Dr. Ferdinand said, in order to get it right, to get it better than it was before, it's going to take time to do it right.
Marky, I have heard that those comments from residents. I've heard them from other sources.
Oh, yes. What I realized, I was saying to someone yesterday, that a lot of the negative comments I'm hearing from the Southern Grenadines, unfortunately, are from persons in the diaspora not persons living on the island.
Ah, I see.
The persons on the island.
Well, unfortunately, I hear some of them. So, unfortunately, but yes, I'm
But
glad
things
you're
are
making
happening.
that clarification.
Things are happening.
Mr. Ryan, I would definitely encourage you not to take our word for it, but just go to the Southern Grenadines and see for yourself.
Well, I told you I'm going to Canada because I want to get taste of peace.
No, but you have to go. You need to go to the other
Okay.
islands as well,
Well,
and you need to see. You need to be on
Union
salt
is my
with.
favorite.
No, but you need to be on salt with Bay with your feet in the sand and seeing all the boats coming in, and even your flight down when you're flying over the Tobago Keys and you're seeing all of the
Okay,
boats.
all right.
There's a buzz of activity there. I mean, and you don't even need to leave mainland to realize that, because you can go up at the Grenadines Wharf when the boats are going down and you can see the amount of traffic. Sometimes when the traffic is backed up in town, it's because of everybody trying to rush to the Grenadines Wharf.
Okay. So I know
Yes.
I now know who to blame.
Speaking about the Grenadines Wharf, what plans are there to refurbish the situation up there?
So the port, are you speaking about boat number 5 and the damage caused there by Hurricane Beryl?
Yeah.
So the port, they have an RFP out, which is a request for proposals for a company to assess the situation and
Okay.
come up with a structural solution there, one that is structurally sound. To be honest, I think that we need to speed up that activity, and I've been pressing for that, but we are working on that. We understand that we have a new ferry that is in town. That's the Beckway Fast Ferry, and you could definitely see the buzz in the Grenadines. Now you're seeing the boats moving in and out. The activity is definitely up. So we definitely need to improve that facility, the current facility that we have. But the government have some wider plans for where exactly the Grenadines Wharf is going to be. I know the Prime Minister would have spoken about it after the completion of the modern port in town, and he would have spoke about phase 2 and 3 of the modern port project, which would include the moving of the Grenadines ferry down to that side of Kingstown and the further expansion of Kingstown into the service sector industry, and what we can develop those lands that are currently being used as ports, and further expansion of the cruise ship terminal to accommodate bigger and more cruise ships.
To what extent would can you attribute some of the buzz that you're talking about for the Grenadines to what's happening in terms of AIA and tourists coming in? Before you answer, let's take the call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ryan. Good morning.
Good afternoon to you.
Well, you know who called it anyhow, right?
Not yet. Tell us who you are. Remind us. Winston.
Yes.
I don't remember
Winston Win. Negative thing about the Grenadines. But we had, as a tracker, doing some calculation for you. 10, 12, 120, 12, 7, 84. That's it, 204 months and a half, next 210. And we had some boat piloting back. For them for 210 months. And they didn't repair until getting government. They didn't change them. You understand where I'm coming from?
Not quite, but give us the conclusion of what you're saying.
Well, what I really saying, you have to have two piloting and secondary schooling back way.
No, we heard that. You made that point. So come to the conclusion now. All right, go ahead.
But the ones that you know to go down in the Grenadines to fix in a split second. So they say nothing doing. You understand what I'm saying now?
No, I understand what you're saying now. You see, you're using big numbers and I couldn't relate to the numbers.
No, what I am saying, the length of time where them pilots was in back and they didn't do for 210 months. And the amount of house what we have when we go and do what we're doing. The war they're doing in a few weeks or a few months.
All right. I get your point. I get your point. You made it strong.
All right.
All right, then. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
I think the question you were raising was about AIA and the development
Yes,
of AIA.
the connection between what's happening now in terms of the buzz in the Grenadines and the construction of AIA. Is it linked?
Of course, it's linked. I mean, the AIA, it has spurred on a lot of tourism activity and just transportation activity throughout the country. You were speaking, I heard you talking about the amount of people you saw at the Annisville,
I did.
Annisville, Argyle International Airport.
Yesterday when I was there.
Well, I had the privilege of being there, not last Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. And what I saw out there, was...
I'm sorry, can I ask you to hold your point and
Sure.
let's take this call and we'll get back to continuing that. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Hello, good afternoon, my friend.
Good afternoon to you.
I'm calling from Sandy Bay.
Oh, Sandy Bay is in the studio. Good to have you.
Yeah. Now, I have a little problem now.
So who is having the problem?
Mr. Baptiste from Sandy Bay.
Oh, Mr. Batiste. Okay, Mr. Batiste. Let's hear you.
Yes. No. It have about 2 months before the hurricane come.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I went by Orange Hill and already summoned them for all my plants in Bloodhound.
Mm-hmm.
And I leave Orange Hill, I go by the other place down Diamond Dong, the summer around. I forgot the place name. And I already stay again. I leave there and I come in Kingston by the headquarters there. And I register again and up to
What
now,
headquarters
I
in
can't get a
Kingston?
card.
What's the name of the headquarters in Kingston?
There is up by the agriculture place up there.
The Ministry of Agriculture?
Yes.
Okay. So you registered there?
I can't get a card to get. I don't spend money. I don't plow back all my plants in them. And I don't spend money to buy manure and buy poison and treat them good.
All right. And so you registered at 3 places and you haven't heard. You registered at 3 places.
Nothing.
And you haven't heard from. All right. Well, perhaps you.
Right.
Well, the minister might do a follow up on your behalf.
Yes, I will raise the issue with the Minister of
Okay, thank you
Agriculture.
very much.
I've taken a note of your name, so I will definitely do that. Have a good day, Mr. Batiste.
Yes. So
we were speaking about the Argyle Airport last Wednesday. So I had the privilege of being there then, and on the ground we had American Airlines, or they were preparing to do the check-in for American Airlines, Virgin Atlantic, Caribbean Airlines, Air Canada, and JetBlue was now preparing to leave. When I tell you the airport was abuzz, there was no vacant seat within the airport. And if that is the way that what regular Wednesday is looking, I'm excited to see what Carnival is going to look like. You know, when we would be expecting more visitors into the country. But it's definitely heartwarming to see and something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
This is a dream. I mean, the comrades said build it and they will come.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing the result of that now, although there have been naysayers before.
But we can expect that buzz come December 20, I think. Is it December 20? When Atlanta,
when
Delta will be.
When we'd be expecting more airlift into St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And then you know that Virgin has decided that they would be shifting their schedule, so they're arriving a bit earlier.
Oh,
And I've been told that one of the reasons why they're interested in doing that or one of the benefits of them doing that is better transfer possibilities to the Grenadine Islands.
so there'll be a bigger buzz
Bigger buzz.
at the Grenadines, in the Grenadines actually.
Bigger buzz.
Okay. All right. Well, things are happening.
Thing I go on.
Yes,
Enough
for
thing I
sure.
go on.
Thing are gone. Okay, I'll take that. Anyway, ladies, somebody sent me a message on my phone. I have to read it, notwithstanding what you said earlier. And he said, but things said, Cecil, it is instructive that the persons in the front line of this recovery are all women, including Nemo and Nemo Chief Forbes. Great for the empowerment of our women. That's what the person said. Yes, I just read what the person said. So, with that, I don't know, Pigeon, you have any other?
I was just
probing
thinking
question?
about a clip I saw of a potential candidate visiting a constituent.
A constituent?
Well, a person.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
just want you.
Yeah.
A
And
potential candidate
yeah,
for whom and for when?
for the New Democratic Party,
For when?
whenever the election is called. No, but
Oh,
he,
you mean this election?
this election. He visited and perhaps mentioned that nothing was going on. The homeowner went ballistic and chased them.
Oh! I think I saw the clip that you're talking about. I saw it on social media as well. Not only did he chase them, he said over 100 houses have been built in my area. He said that. That I heard his voice saying that, and you're still saying, maybe you should have come and asked me to vote for you or something like that. But don't say nothing going on or something like that. That's interesting.
The strategy.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll discuss those things another time. Right now, we're focusing on the work that's the intensity of the work that is happening in the Southern Grenadines. So, ladies, we're just about ready to put up. So maybe you may want to give some final remarks, Dr. Fonian, starting with you, and then we come to Stuart and then Minister.
Okay, I just want to thank the panel.
Can you go closer to the mic?
Okay, right. I want to thank you for having me on this program. I think it's very important, that we establish exactly what is happening so that, despite the naysayers, that we understand that a lot is happening. It's going to take coordination. It's going to take time. And I also want to use the opportunity to thank all of the stakeholders, locally, regionally, and internationally, all of the workers, the ministers, and all of the other ministries and the private sector for the support that they have given to the recovery operation on St. Vincent and the Grenadines in general, and in particular in the Grenadines, the southern Grenadines, which was severely impacted by Hurricane Beryl. The work is not over. We continue, and we need the support of all the different players, and we will continue to put our best foot forward to ensure that we are building a resilient nation, resilient communities. It takes great effort, and together everyone can achieve more. So persons in the community and all the stakeholders, we are willing to work with you. If there are persons out there who would like to provide assistance, you can come to the office, you can call Nemo, you can call the different ministries, and we can see how we can work together to ensure that as a nation that we are building resilience to disasters.
Okay, good to hear that. Stuart, I know you're multiplying your areas of national work, national contribution, moving from being the chief radiographer to do other kind of community things. Tell us about
how successful and enjoyable has it been? And empowering, because my colleague said that, not me.
Well, like I said, it's something that I truly embrace. My new minister of housing, and my PS, they have been exceptional. We do. I know persons in Kanawan and Myro may be saying, "You're spending a lot of time in Union Island." Yes, because Union Island needs that extra time and attention right now. Like I said, we make resources available for persons. The government is doing their part. We have contractors engaged in the rebuilding. And every now and then we have homeowners coming in because they probably have a relative that come to spend time with them, and they require they're doing this as self-help and they just need some material. We offer that. We have our assessor ensure that the project is taking place. We offer that. We are there for persons to come in and see us. We know that in Kanawan, most of the work would have been done by the Gumbalimbo team or Mr. Pompey and his team, but we understand that other persons may still have little projects that they may need assistance from the Ministry of Housing in. So we are going to be on Kanawan this week. We will give exactly where our location is. We're willing to help persons there. And then, as Nyron mentioned on the call, we have been to Myro. We recognize that there's some gaps. So we are planning to go back to Myro again. The Ministry of Housing is committed to helping persons to rebuild, ensuring and trying our best to see how many persons we can have back in their home in a secured manner before the next hurricane season.
You did mention the possibility of a clinic on Union Island itself with the Soviet. Can you?
Yes, we will announce. Like I said, we spoke to surveys, Land and Surveys Department, and we are organizing a clinic. We understand the need for the legal part of that. I don't know if it's going to be the same clinic or another one, but we are hearing persons. We are hearing your cries, and we are trying to see how best we can put things in place to assist you.
All right. And if you think we can play a role, meaning the program, in trying to promote and advertise those clinics,
yes,
let us know.
I will.
All right.
Thank you.
Minister Brown, you've been kept very busy here today, and then you're on next week again.
I think at this point you could just name me a co-host. Because next week I might come back and you might decide to ask me my energy.
Well, you're certainly a partner.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you this morning. Cecil, Pigeon, it's always a pleasure to be here. To those members listening, wherever you are, have a pleasant Easter Sunday and continued Easter activities. Regarding to the rebuilding efforts from Hurricane Beryl, I would like to thank everyone who has been involved. If we begin to name names, we'll be here all day and we will be in trouble because there's no way to possibly remember everyone. But I want to stress the importance of us working together and acknowledge that partnership is the only way to get this thing done and to rebuild St. Vincent and the Grenadines stronger than it was before. I would also like to take this opportunity, like Dr. Ferdinand and Ms. Stewart, to stress the fact that we have to be prepared. I'm not speaking about only persons in the Grenadines, but persons throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have to be prepared for this upcoming hurricane season. The last hurricane season taught us all different lessons, and we need to learn those lessons and put into action what we would have learned. So I stress for us to be prepared as we continue to work together towards building a better St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I wish everyone a safe Easter weekend, although we're coming up to the end of it, but there's still more enjoyable activities to partake in. I would like to congratulate the Tourism Authority and the Beckwith Sailing Club for the competitive sailings that we have seen throughout the whole of the Grenadines, because Southern Grenadines has the Bougainvillea Cup, and I've seen some extraordinary pictures of that. So we're in the midst of recovery, but we are still sailing and showcasing our beauty towards the world, and that's the kind of portrayal of St. Vincent and our Vinci spirit we like to see. So have an enjoyable weekend, everyone, and let's continue to work together. And I hope that these two beautiful ladies will be able to get some rest so they can be as energized as Nyron on Tuesday. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Philbert, any concluding remarks? Minister probably making me feel guilty because
Oh, and I would see you next week and possibly the week after that.
you're making me feel guilty to have you out when I know for sure.
No.
Stuart,
It's all fun and play. It's
Yeah.
all fun and games. This is as part of the duty that we have accepted,
Okay.
and I am certain I can speak for myself. I can speak for these two ladies here that are in the room. That if they did not want to be here, they would not have been here.
I
But
know,
it just
I know.
shows it shows the level of dedication
Yes.
to the service that we do and the work that we do.
And that's why I want to give a special thanks to the three of you. And I expect to see more of the three of you in this room as we go forward. I know I'll be seeing you next week in this room, Mr. Brock. When you would have Linsky Douglas in studio with us, he'd be given an update from his perspective and from his knowledge.
And I'm excited for us to talk about the port. I'm
port.
really excited. It's a big project and it has numerous benefits for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I'm very excited to talk about that. We spoke about the benefits of AIA. Hopefully in a few years you'll be speaking about the economical impacts and other benefits that we would have gotten because of this port development.
All right. And on that note, I want to thank all our listeners and followers and callers. I certainly thank the folks at Star Radio for linking with us, and by extension, Garfina Radio. We thank you very much, and we want to wish you a very pleasant day and the rest of the Easter. Stay safe and be careful. Enjoy it, but be careful. My name is Cecil Ryan. Good afternoon.